What's up, everybody? JP here, back with another video. Let me bring this to landscape here. I do want to apologize. I know my past couple of videos have been done in landscape. I am new to this, as far as using my phone to record. All of my reviews have always been private, on contract, and they've always just been journalized, journal style reviews where I just type them out. They're not videos. So doing something different, doing something public, doing something on YouTube here. And I do it by myself. I do it holding the phone, using the phone's camera. Try to pick the best ones that I can. So just kind of bear with me as I, improve on these, which I will do, no doubt. So with that being said, trying to get used to holding these in landscape, I always just feel better doing everything on portrait because I just feel like I have a better grip on the phone. So with that said, we have here the ZTE Grand X4 from Cricket Wireless. This phone is actually pretty unique. Before I get into the uniqueness, let me explain the price. It usually goes for $130, and that's for anybody, even current customers, which is a phenomenal deal. But right now, after the 5th, when their New Year's specials ended, now is will be a great time to get this phone because it's now $80 instead of $130. And the Grand X4, is a great successor from the X3, which also was one of the first phones to feature USB Type-C last year. Wasn't just one of the first budget phones with Type-C, it was one of the first phones, period, with USB Type-C after the Nexuses. And, of course, a few other phones in between. But, nonetheless, when you buy a phone from Cricket, they already take it out, they unbox it, they take it off the, out of the wrapping, because they have to set it up before they let you get it. So, the phone won't have the original wrap or the little screen protector that goes over it. Of course, it wasn't detailed anyway. The Z-Max Pro from Metro, the little screen protector was more detailed than the one that came with this phone. It really didn't have anything but the company logos. But nonetheless, let's get into this bad boy here. Here it is right here. And let me tell you, it is really good quality. It looks just like the Z-Max Pro, even with the dotted earpiece up here. I don't know if you can catch that above the ZTE logo. But it has a pretty weird array of specs here. Let me take it out of the box here. And you'll see 13 megapixel camera, you have your flash, you have the fingerprint sensor, you have the Cricket logo, your speaker down here. This texture right here is, it feels amazing. I actually like that more than the Z-Max Pro's solid feeling that it has in the back. But again, that was also a fantastic feeling. This phone is really kind of like a Z-Max Pro Mini. And you might kind of feel like the specs are a little less, but let me explain those here. First, let me get into this design here. For those of you who haven't yet, please check out, subscribe, if you will, to J Will's channel. He has a comparison video basically talking about how the Honor 6X should not be compared to the ZTE Blade V8 Pro, but instead to just the regular Blade V8, which may or may not come out in America, like the Pro model is next week. For the most part, I agreed with his video for the most part. There was a couple of things, that I had my own opinions on. But, if you look up the Blade V8 and the Blade V8 Pro, the V8 Pro, ZTE is calling its design Black Diamond. That's the color and the design, Black Diamond. And what's really cool is this looks like, just judging by the pictures, I didn't have any hands-on like J Will did. He was actually at CES. But this has a similar texture from what I can see judging by the pictures and videos I have seen of the V8 Pro that's coming out next week again, and I do plan to get it. Now, of course, this obviously isn't black. It's more of like a grayish color or a gunmetal color. The V8 Pro is black. So, you know, I'm not referring to the color, but more so to the pattern. And, you know, it just has a really nice build quality. I mean, I'm sure it's made to look somewhat metal, and I'm sure it's more plastic than metal, but it is a really good plastic if it is. It is metal, however, around the phone here. You can see how the power button has its own little texture on it, kind of make it easier to find there. And you got your 3.5 millimeter jack there. You got your SIM tray here, and it does take a micro SD card. Something I found out funny: a lot of phones, when they say they have a limitation of the capacity, you know, capacity limitation for the memory card, I always find it untrue. I've had several phones that say the capacity limit is 64 gigs, but I'll put a 128 gig card in and it'll work just fine. This phone that states that limitation is true. It's really true. I don't know if it states a 32 or 64 gig limitation, but I put my 128 gig card in here and it did not work. It even gave me the error that it exceeded the capacity, which is just really funny because I've actually never had personal experience with that. I've never seen that before. But nonetheless, it does have only 16 gigs internal with 2 gigs of RAM. Don't let that 2 gigs of RAM fool you. It runs really well. You do have your USB Type-C down here with Fast Charge 2.0. And you do have your front-facing camera right there. It's either 5 or 8 megapixels there. But, of course, you got your capacitive keys here. And they actually light up. It's really rare to find phones with the physical capacitive keys and they actually light up. Especially at this price point. I mean, it's just rare to me. I mean, I've had phones that cost double or triple this that didn't light up. As a matter of fact, I don't even remember the Axon 7's capacitive keys light up. And that's like, you know, a flagship quality phone, you know, with Snapdragon 820. Speaking about processors, this has the Snapdragon 425. And I'll tell you why that's so unique to me. Now, the Z Max Pro actually carries the 617. 617 is a very outdated processor. It is an octa-core. It is, you know, I'm sure when benchmarked, more powerful than this, you know, of course. But it is a, you know, 2015 processor. The Snapdragon 425 actually is, you know, a 2016 processor. I mean, it was introduced with the 625, as well as the 435. Speaking about the Snapdragon 435, the Blade V8, the regular one that's not coming out in America, that's the one that has the 430. This has the 425. And judging by the back again, seeing that it has a similar pattern to the Pro model, I can't help but you know, in a way, kind of consider this, you know, part of the Blade family. But of course, because it's, you know, here in America and it's on Cricket Wireless, they call it, you know, the Z-Max, or not the Z-Max, I'm sorry, but the Grand X. Even though Grand X was used before Cricket's time as well, it's kind of become a name that Cricket uses, you know, more often than so. But I just can't help but consider this part of the Blade's family. You know, it has specs that are a lot closer to the regular V8, but it has a similar pattern and build quality on the back like the V8 Pro. But again, I have had personal experience, not specifically with the 435, but the 430 octa-core found in the LG Stylo 2 Plus on Metro PCS. And this right here, again, has the 425, which is a quad-core, not an octa-core, clocked at 1.4 gigahertz. It is a 64-bit processor. But, you know, a lot of times what I find with your quad-core 400 series 64-bit Snapdragons is that the software actually isn't running in 64-bit mode. As a matter of fact, I had tons and tons and tons of Snapdragon 410 powered devices, which was a 64-bit processor, the 410. Not the 400, but the 410. And they all ran the 32-bit OS. Now, of course, you know, I'm not trying to make this very long. I know a lot of people are going to give me the crap about 4 gigs of RAM, and without that, 64-bit doesn't really matter. And I understand that. But you know, of course, as the Snapdragon 400 series processor, you know, got higher cores like the 600 series did, you know, and you got into the octa-cores, and, you know, as such, you know, your 430s and 435s, a lot of them have, you know, the 64-bit software. Again, this has a 425, and it's a quad-core, so this is actually the successor. You know, the 410 actually had the 412, but I've never had a device with the 412. And, of course, the 412 successor was the 425. So, you know, this is closer to the 410 than you know, the 430, 435 would be, being that they're octa-core. But this, actually, you know, it has, you know, the 64-bit OS as well, as I can see from, you know, running Antutu. But yeah, let's crank it up here. Well, actually, before we do that, let's see what else is in the box here. Open it up here. We got your quick start guide here with your SIM removal tool. We got your product safety and warranty information. Always read these so you know what your warranty covers. Got your terms and conditions, blah, blah, blah. And of course, right here, you are greeted with your USB Type-C cable. And then you got your wall adapter right here. So we will place that in here. And we're going to get all of this in here, back in here just for the time being. And we're just going to kind of set that aside. We're going to crank this puppy up here. And has the same little intro that the Grand X Max 2 from Cricket Wireless has, which had came out over the summertime, or just before the summer, rather. Has the same little splash screen. It just has the different name, of course. I'd hope that this wouldn't boot up and say Grand X Max 2, of course. But you know that the Z Max Pro had the same chipset that the Grand X Max 2 had. Of course, it just had the fingerprint sensor. But again, the 617 though is, you know, it's still a great processor, especially for the price tag. But the 425 here is more than capable for what you get. I mean, I had the Z Max Pro, and I can't help but think that this is nearly just as fast. And of course, it's probably just in my head. You know, benchmarks would definitely show otherwise, I'm sure. But I like the fact that the 425 is just a more updated processor. The fingerprint sensor, you know, it's nothing really super fast here. But it does work, you know. Be nice if there you go. And just kind of give you a look of it here. And kind of try to focus here a little bit here. I'm using the just as I did with the Honor 6X. I'm using the camera for the Le Max 2, and it's supposed to be a really good camera, but just doesn't do a good job focusing during these videos here. But the screen brightness is just really good on this phone. You know, I have to say, I actually have more fun using this phone than the Honor 6X. So I know that most of what Jay Will said, I can't help but agree with, because I really think I'm going to enjoy the V8 Pro a lot more than the Honor 6X. But the reason why his video was stating that you shouldn't really compare the two, and that if you're going to do a comparison, the Honor 6X needs to be compared more so with the regular V8, is because the specs are more closely matched, and it's not even necessarily just the CPU, it's also the GPU. The Kirin 655's GPU isn't really as great as the 506 Adreno that is found in the Snapdragon 625, which the V8 Pro will have. Remember, don't get yourself confused. The V8 has the 435, as this phone has the 425. You know, again, I can't help but think that this phone is part of the Blade series. It has a really good quality to it. It's definitely a lot closer in specs to the regular V8. Minus the back here, of course, which is very reminiscent of the V8 Pro with that diamond texture. Of course, obviously, since it's not black diamond, it's more gray diamond, I guess you would say. The regular V8 just has like a solid, like a aluminum finish. It's not this diamond pattern that the Pro model has. Rather or not, we'll see the regular V8 here in America. Really, if we do, it'll probably be with a prepaid carrier, because given the price point of the Pro, there's really no place for the regular V8. But nonetheless, you know, this phone, you know, one of the biggest gripes with the Honor 6X is the fact that the screen is just very washed out. I read that in so many reviews, and you know, it's so true, so true. The screen is very washed out on the Honor 6X. I mean, it definitely displays, you know, in 1080p Full HD, but this phone has a 720p, you know, a 720p HD screen, excuse me there, and it is way better. I think Android Authority, or one of the other Android news sites, actually did a review on this phone a month ago, back in December, after it had been out for a little while, and you can't tell with this wallpaper. I'll change it to the stock one here in a minute. And for those of you asking, this is from the Axon 7. And this was preloaded on the phone. It has the Axon's wallpapers, which I thought was pretty cool. But when you have wallpapers on here that aren't black, it actually seems almost AMOLED. It really does. And if you read Android Authority's review on this phone, again, I think it was them. It might have been Android Central, Android Community, or Android Police that actually did the review. Shout out to them, by the way. But whoever did the review on this phone, they stated a couple of times that, you know, if they didn't know any better, they would say that it had an AMOLED screen. And it's an IPS, but it is a really good IPS. I mean, it's crazy good, crazy good. And I don't think that this camera I'm using is even doing a good job showcasing that. But let me go to the wallpaper that this phone boots up with by stock. This one right here, where it has very little black, if any at all. This is the one that it boots up with. And I gotta tell you, I mean, you have to see it in person. It is a gorgeous screen, and there's no way that this is only 720. There is no way that this is IPS. I'm so serious. I'm so serious. I mean, this screen looks full HD and it looks AMOLED, especially with this wallpaper. I mean, it's insane. It's insane. I mean, it's for the price point. You just, I mean, I have my mom using the blue Vivo XL, which has a 5.5 inch, 720p HD Super AMOLED. It's a gorgeous screen, and I mean, this is just, you don't know that this isn't AMOLED until you really put it side by side that phone, and even then you have a tough time even trying to tell. Again, I'm sure that this video is not really doing that great of justice for the screen, but read that other review that I told y'all to read about this phone. If you're thinking about picking this up, if it's right in the range of your budget, go get it. It's definitely a go. It is a fantastic device. It's handled everything I've thrown at it. It handles it very well. I can't believe it's only 2 gigs. I can't believe it's a quad-core Snapdragon 425. But let's go here to the Antutu here. Let's show you some of the specs here. Let me go into the info, and you see right here. Let me get it out of that. The reflection of my ceiling fan there. Trying to get better about this, y'all. Again, just work with me here. I know these aren't that great of quality, but I'm trying here. I'm going to get better as time goes. But you see how the Android OS 6.0.1 is 64-bit. Only has an Adreno 308 for the graphics chip, which really surprised me. That's so outdated. I mean, that's like, what, 2014, 2013 maybe, even? But nonetheless here, I mean, it's just really nice. I mean, you know, it just does a really good job here. I know I just showed my IMEI, but again, I'm not really that worried about it. Just kind of work with me here. I'll get some editing. I'll learn some editing skills eventually and edit that out if I need to as well. But let me just kind of move that back there. And yeah, I mean it's just you sorry for the stutter, but you just can't help but really like the screen quality. It really looks like a miniature Z Max Pro. It's 5.5 inches instead of 6 inches. So it'll fit in a VR headset, which is something that I like. A 6-inch phone is very hard to find a VR headset for. So it's really, and I mean, yeah, it doesn't quite have the specs of the Z Max Pro, and they could have kept the specs, with the smaller screen. But really, I like the fact that it has the 425 because it kind of adds a little differentiation, if you will, if that's a word, to my collection. Because I already had the Z Max Pro. I have the Idol 4, which has the same Snapdragon 617. I had the HTC One A9, which was the first retail device, I think, with the 617. You got plenty of 615 and 616 devices like the Honor 5X. But back to the Honor 6X. Am I saying to pick this up over the Honor 6X? Well, no. I mean, this isn't the same as the Blades, the V8 or the V8 Pro. And again, by the time you try to import the regular V8, it'll end up costing the same as getting the Pro next week here in America. And even then, the LTE might not work here in America. It's hit or miss. Some foreign phones it does work, and some foreign phones it doesn't. Of course, it depends on the LTE bands. But if you're on an even lower budget than $250, which is the prices of the V8 Pro from ZTE and the Honor 6X, the regular price of this, which it will eventually go back up to $130, and of course you can pick it up right now at $80. I mean, either price, it's more than worth it. I mean, this can really be a daily driver. I mean, it works very well. I cannot wait to get my hands on the ZTE Blade V8 Pro next week. But it's just the washed out screen on the Honor 6X. It kills it for me. It kills it. I'm just not a fan of it. 1080 or not, it's just they just could have did better with that. I mean, if a phone for $130 has a better screen, I mean, you just can't. I know Cricket takes I know Cricket has a subsidy in here somewhere, just as Metro PCS did with the Z Max Pro, offering it for only $100. Because if you read the fine line, if you were already a current customer, the original price of that phone was actually like $170 or $180, something like that. And of course, you can get it on prepaid T-Mobile now at Walmart for $150. And there's a reason why it's not $100 like at Metro, because that's a price for new customers. Now, the $80 that this phone is going for right now is, for any, current customer, new customer, whatnot. And so was the price of $130. I will get this unlocked as I always do. Cricket phones are actually very easy to get unlocked. They're cheap as well. They don't have the whole unlock ad thing. It's the traditional code. Just as I did with the Grand X3 last year. Just as I did with the Idol 4. Just as I did with, any phone I get. But if y'all have any questions about this phone, ask me. It does run Marshmallow again. The screen is very vivid. It does run a quad-core Snapdragon 425, clocked at 1.4 gigs, 2 gigs of RAM, 16 gig internal. I think the limitation for the memory card is 64 gigabytes. It might be 32, but I'm leaning more towards 64. Again, I did try 128 and it didn't work. I've never seen that before. But sorry for rambling on. I know this video here has gotten long here, but y'all enjoy. Thank you for watching.